Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Another edition of the Bro Roadshow. Bro Roadshow is a traveling, touring thing about fishing that I did for many, many years, for over 20 years, traveling across the USA, talking about fishing, doing seminars. And so now I could say it's not Bro Outdoors, it's the Bro Roadshow. So we have a great show tonight. We have huge giveaways. I can't believe we have giveaways like this. And fishing has really been interesting. We had 90-degree weather here in northern Minnesota, and now we got a cold front, and it was snowing yesterday and today. We had flurries coming through. Plus, we have fires and smoke. It's all kinds of good stuff, but the fish are biting. So, before I go any farther, I want to thank Chesterburg Toyota for backing the On Air podcast. They're supporting us through this. And Chesterburg Toyota is a state of the art dealership in Bemidji. So you can pick up a brand new Toyota truck. You can go buy a used vehicle. You can get your vehicle serviced there. They have a brand new state of the art facility. It's amazing to go there. I like to stop there and drink coffee. I just love the place. But anyway, stop by, say hi to Brian and the gang. They'll take good care of you. And then Timberline Sports in Black Duck. On your way to Red Lake, Lake of the Woods, or just Black Duck area, stop in and say hi to Carl and the gang. You could buy a pizza there. You could buy a gun. Of course, you can get bait. You could buy a deer stand. They got everything there, plus they got gas. So stop in, say hi, and get sage advice on where to catch fish right away. More fish, more catching, less fishing. So without any further ado, let me bring on my co-host, Sam Larsen, a designer, a painter, a turkey stamp, walleye stamp for Minnesota winter, and has his own business, and he is just doing all kinds of stuff. Let's talk to Sam.
Hey, bro, how's it going?
It's going good, man. Man, you got a lot of hats. So how'd your fishing go this week? I know the opener was tumultuous.
I know opener was rough, and then I was super busy throughout the week. Went down to Mille Lacs and did some filming with Brad Hawthorne. I didn't get to fish, but we ended up catching some fish and a couple dandies down there. And been busy the rest of the week, but I finally got out fun fishing today. Me and my dad went up to Red, and it started a little slow. I was worried I was going to come again with a tough report, but about noon, 1 o'clock came around, and the bite really picked up, and we started plucking away fish. A lot of little ones to weed through, but we were able to keep a few for the pan, so it was a good day overall. I'm
glad Red Lake is just crawling with walleyes, and that's a great destination. I had to tough it out. I was in Cass Lake, which is a beautiful lake, popular lake, and it's one of those lakes that if you know it, it can be hard even for the people who really know it. Gin clear water, you can see a crayfish on the bottom and darn near 20 feet of water. And with the cold front and heat, I don't know what did worse, the heat or the cold front, but I had guide trips out there, and I've got pictures to back it up. We did good, but we didn't do great, but we got some big fish. And here's some photos. So it goes from flat, calm, and hot to super cold, and every day the wind kicked up. There's a 28-incher. Congratulations. The ladies, 3 ladies, and they can catch fish. There they are holding. We had a good day at a Wishbone Resort there, and lots of fun. And everybody, thanks for the trips. Been staying busy over there, and I got a lot of trips all over the area, Leech, Winnie, Cass, but it's been very interesting. And I have a report on Leech Lake right now, fresh off the presses. I want to congratulate Brian Martinka from Chesterburg Toyota. He's the guy that keeps sending you to buy a car from. And Dan Fuller from Black Sheep Outdoors took second place on the Big Pond, and they gave me a report. Here they are, holding up their plaques. And I hope that those guys are having fun and drinking some pop tonight. It well earned, and it wasn't really nice. It was snowing, it was raining, and super windy, giant waves, but they pulled it off. And the techniques, the walleyes have been everywhere there. In pre-fishing, they got them on jig and a minnow, but the only way they could get them to bite are reaction style baits. So it's not about numbers. Find the fish and just keep going at it. And they're using baits similar to this one right here. This is my favorite Leech Lake one. That's a puppet minnow. That's rusty crayfish color. And so reaction baits ripping it. And so congratulations, guys. Thanks for the report. That lake's going to be on fire here in the next couple days because just waiting to chomp. But before we go any farther, Sam, what are we giving away tonight?
We got a whole load of giveaways tonight. So for starters, do you want to start? You start.
We are giving away at the end of the show an amped outdoors 12 volt 60 amp hour battery. One lucky winner is going to have that to run their electronics on. You're going to be all set, run your big screen forever on that thing. And they have a chart online. It's not forever, but go online. They have everything written down for every machine on how long stuff runs. And I want to thank Matt from Amped for the donation. That's at the end of the show. So we're going to make you watch it. You have to say, I want to be amped up. You got to say, amp me up. So either way, just say something about getting amped up. And you might be amped up. It's a random winner that's getting picked, but you have to be saying you want to be amped up. And what else do we have?
We got the Humminbird giveaway again. So we're going to do a 1 year subscription to the One Boat Network. It's an awesome app that'll give you lake master mapping across the entire nation. If you don't win, go out and get it after the show. It's well worth it, along with a hat and a rod sock. So comment One Boat Network, like and share the show. That'll get you entered in to win that one. I will also be giving away some of my stickers, some of my art designs, turn them into stickers. So like, comment, and share, and we're going to pick away one winner for that.
And you call those your doodles?
Those are my doodles, yeah. So
Sam's doodles. So
they are available at my Etsy page, S. Larsen Art. Larsen is spelt with an E-N. There, Brooke has it up on the bottom of the screen. So give away that. And then finally, Northland
fishing tackle. Look at this pile of stuff. I want to thank Jace Peterson and Charlie Peterson for putting this together. A box full of stuff for Northland survival kit for on the lake, jigs and spinners and bobbers and tungsten jigs, and of course that stylish hat. I don't even have one of those. I'd love to get one of those, but make sure to comment, like, and share, and you're in to win. So we have 4 giveaways. So One Boat Network and Amp Me Up, Northland Tackle, you just have to keep sharing or liking it or asking questions. And then Sam, what do you want them to say to get the doodles? Or is it just random?
Comment your favorite fish species. I got a walleye, crappie, a largemouth, and I don't have the smallmouth. So comment your favorite fish species.
So perfect. Okay, so let's bring on Carl Adams, owner of Timberline Sports in Black Duck. Always great for information. He is at the epicenter, and he talks to a billion people a day. How you doing, Carl?
Not too bad. How you doing, bro?
Hey, really good. You still got shiners.
We still do. We've been sitting good on minnows so far, and it's been a really good start to the season. A little too much wind for my liking. There's been a few days it's been hard to get on the big waters, but it's been a great start to the season.
So what kind of water temperatures are you at right now? Have you heard about red or black duck or any of those lakes?
And things have varied a lot because we've had some of those really warm days, and that was getting that surface temp up there a little bit. Then it would stir it up and go back down when the wind was blowing. But we're seeing most of our stuff is in the mid 50s plus. I mean, lakes like Red have warmed up even faster than that. Had some surface temps that hit into the 60s. Of course, we had 90-degree weather for a while, so we've had a lot of warm weather. Now we've had some cold weather and some, either cold rain or snow or sleet, different things that have been hitting the last couple days. So we'll see we'll back to normal temperatures, I think, for the next week or so.
Yeah, they might have to buy some rain suits and make sure they're dressed up warm when they're at your shop. So, and Sam, what'd you have for temperatures?
I like right what Carl said. I think it cooled down a little bit. So headed out of the Tamarack this morning, I saw 48 in the river there, and then but the main body of water, Red Lake, was right around 55. Is what I saw. And it fluctuated throughout the day a little bit, but 55 is what I was seeing.
And I had 53 on cast, maybe give or take a little bit of that, and it was amazing. And in some places, even I went up in Andrusia, and it was pretty much at par. And so, as much as everything advanced, we had ice, then we had heat. The walleye seemed to have spawned, and everybody's at all the places you get them when the walleyes are ready to come out. And there's no one around. So it is a different year. I noticed at Tamarack, there's a lot of people in the river last week. But now, all these places like on Cass and stuff like that, the walleyes weren't there. But now I'm hearing they're starting to come out of those places, and some are way off in summer mode. Have you heard the same, Carl?
A little bit of that. I still thought most of this first week of season was like it was a really late ice out, which it kind of was. It just got really warm. And those fish, a lot of our local lakes, when you caught a walleye, it was still milting. They were ultra shallow. A lot of times on Blackdick Lake, shallow is 6 to 10 feet. Our fish opening day seemed really tough for a lot of guys, but when people started finding them during the week, we found out our fish were in like 3 to 5 feet. They were right up in they were just a little bit shallower, which usually only happens right after the ice goes out. And then started thinking about it, and the ice did just go out. It just warmed up really fast afterwards. I think we're starting to see them slide back into more normal or early season stuff. That everything should be back to normal now.
So me and my dad got reports that red was on fire. I think it was Wednesday and Thursday up in like 3 feet of water. And we tried that a little bit, but today it seemed like 7 to 8 feet right off that first break is where most of the fish were congregated. So,
and I think I've heard that more this year than most. And a lot of that has to do with a lot of, the wind has stirred it up a lot up there. We've had a lot of wind, and whenever it stirs it up, it pushes the fish out of that 3-4 foot of water. If we get a few calm days in a row, they'll go back up there. But in that, with that wind blowing a lot, which it has done, it seems like it stirred it up, and the best bites been between 6 and 8.
Yep.
Yeah, that's very interesting, and a lot of jig activity. I suppose. Have you heard any other reports, Carl? Is it all jigging, or are people using other stuff?
Red has heated up enough where people have been able to troll cranks and just about catch them however they've wanted. So there's been bobber fishermen. There's a couple of days were really good. Wednesday and Thursday. Saturday was pretty good. Then there's been some other little bit tougher days, mostly because of the wind. But on those good days, people have been able to catch fish doing almost whatever they want. I saw people trolling spinners, catching fish. A lot of guys trolling cranks, catching fish. Some throwing bobbers. But the majority of people are jigging a shiner minnow, and that seems to be the most productive.
Yeah, we saw fish hooked on all three today. That we caught all of ours on a jig and a minnow. We saw a bobber go down a couple times on a boat fish next to us, and then a guy trolling by us caught a decent one on a crankbait. So yeah, I think Carl hit it right on the head there. That
however you want to do it.
Carl, talk a little bit about minnow selection and size up there. I feel like it's always nice to have a variety. So we stopped into your shop this morning. We picked up some shiners and rainbows, but it seemed like the rainbows were a little bit better for us this morning. Do you have any thoughts on why different bait works better on different days?
It does. Well, that's one thing that I always tell people. You never know what's going to be the best. I would say on the majority of slow days, it seems like they're used to eating shiners, and that's going to be their favorite bait. But those shiners up there are just about done spawning now. They spawned early because that water temp got really, really high. And once they're done spawning, once the shiners are done spawning, and that's not the only thing they're eating, then it seems like sometimes, their food base gets a little smaller, and they'd almost rather eat a little bit smaller minnow, or a rainbow is just something a little bit darker colored. Maybe they're chasing something different. But you do want to make sure you have some variety, because you never know when their favorite bait isn't the exact one you choose. And there's times, things can change anytime. So it's always good to have some variety with.
Yeah, I just want to bring up something here. I had a question. And this is from Andy Carr, and this is from last week. So I want to catch up. I mean, he reached out what kind of scents I put on my plastic. Mm-hmm. So I love eye candy. That's what I've been using, and it's virtually indestructible, but it absorbs scent. And I've had really good luck with Procure in the bottle, the oil, and I'll put it in the tray. It'll suck it up like a sponge, and it seems like it never gets rid of the scent, so it lasts forever. So that's what I've been using, but I've been going mild early, and then I'll get more of a pungent scent towards summer. But that's one of the things. And we had people ask Carl, they want us to talk about electronics. It's very confusing for beginners. Let's talk a little bit about Humminbird and how you go out and you start your day when you're looking for fish.
Earlier the day, I was trying to put a new Explorer in my boat because I decided, and it wasn't as easy to run those wires as I thought through all those little things, because the end's a little bigger than on the old stuff. But I wanted to have the new Explorer because touchscreen is a lot nicer, and I had a helix to run the side imaging before. But the side imaging, being able to cruise around with the very best side imaging out there, be able to locate some pods of fish, and then go back after them and use the one of the forward-facing sonars to look at your fish and cast at them is the most productive way to find fish now.
I agree. Don't you, Sam? I mean, side imaging, you can go at a high speed. When you have a down rod with forward facing, you can only go so fast unless it's on your trolling motor.
Yep, same. We only caught one fish on forward facing today. We used side imaging and kind of rolled through, and they seemed really spread out and tight to the bottom. So I could kind of pick out a few fish on side imaging, but to be honest, it was a little bit hard for the forward facing. So we would just drift, and I would keep that forward facing on my trolling motor pointed straight out the front. So we'd drift and we'd pick off fish doing that. And then every once in a while I would see a key target. And we actually picked up a couple bigger fish doing that. And I think those bigger fish were a little easier to see, a little higher off the bottom. But for the most part, we were just drifting jigs today, doing it old school style. But definitely having that side imaging on kind of helped us key in on a few of those schools of fish out there.
You could see movement. And someone asked what was a good jig on Cass Lake. I like the deep V. See, it's got blue there. That's parrot. And the deep V has that little barb. So if you use plastics, it stays on. And, with a minnow. And even if sometimes I cast, they love shiners, but sometimes you can get by with a rainbow or fathead. But I absolutely love this year round on Cass. That is my favorite walleye, deep V. That with a chunky crawler. It's so deadly. It's unbelievable. But if you're going to cast, pay attention to detail. And the one piece of advice I could give you, notice I use Sunline Green Braid. Normally I'll use 8-pound Sunline FC leader, but I've gone to 6. And that lady got the 28 on the 6. The 27s were caught on 6-pound test. The 26, super strong. And it's just good to have a clear leader. And then we got another question.
We had a really good question come up. 2 of them actually, and we got the perfect guy for this. How do we keep shiners and all bait alive longer?
Well, shiners are one of the hardest ones to keep alive. And I assume you were talking to me because I'm the one who has to deal with the most shiners. Shiners. They'll roll by his lots for me, and he's able to keep them alive all the time.
Maybe we shouldn't ask you. You're probably going to tell us how to kill them so you can keep selling them. Huh?
That's a good point. But people have to remember temperature change is one of the other things. Most people understand that you have to keep them oxygenated now. So we're selling lots of aerators, and aerators have gotten better, and minnow buckets have gotten better to keep them at temperature. But sometimes guys think, oh, I got this bag of shiners now, and we put oxygen in them, so they're going to live till you get up there, and we're going to keep them cool so they don't get too warm in a cooler. So they have them iced in a cooler. And then they decide to dump them in their warm water in a bait well in their boat or in a live well, something like that. They don't take temperature change. That's one of the things that people forget, and they'll kill some there. And that temperature change can also happen throughout the day in your angles and stuff like that. That they start just getting a little too warm. They use up their oxygen fast. So even if your aerator is working, it doesn't do as well. They're a tough minnow to keep alive for multiple days, but you can do it. I watch Bro do it a lot because he buys them, doesn't use them all up every time. So,
well, that's just it. When I go to an access, I have water from the bait shop, and I have 2 containers. So I leave one at my truck, and then when I come in, I can dump my minnows out into a net and put them into the container. So I'm not transporting the water from the lake, and it isn't the water from the lake, but I'll show the agents who are at the accesses what you're doing. But if you don't have two buckets, you got to dump them out. So it's good to have 2 containers with bubblers ready to go. And then otherwise bait gets really expensive after a while every day, except for when I go to Timberline, I get ample scoops there. So I love it. But we got some more questions here real quick. And then also having some kind of G juice or finer shiner, which is a green saline formula. A little bit of that calms them down so they don't get have heart attacks as much. But do you troll with a jig, and how fast and how much line out? Both of you.
Okay, I'll go first because I think I'm going to be the shorter, less educated one on this answer. I I don't really troll a lot with a jig. I run a bass boat. It's not very convenient. I love drifting in the wind with a jig, and I will drift. I feel like until it's too fast, and to be honest, I don't even know the speed on that. It's just kind of going by feel. Um, or even today, like the wind was really fluctuating and the boat was kind of killing, and I would keep jigging until you'd almost start to get a bow in your line, and then do a little reeling after that. So I like drifting. I don't troll and drag around jigs a lot. So, Carl?
I have done it over the years, and it can be productive, and it still works to this day. But I've switched a lot more with the techniques. I've changed now with the trolling motors being better. So I use my general technique is I put my trolling motor on. It might be up to 1 mile an hour, but I'm casting to the side. And when I start catching fish, I spot lock there, and then I just cast at them and go whatever speed the fish like. So I do a lot less true trolling. I mean, my trolling motor might be on, I might be moving, so that until I locate an active school of fish, because you get on a lake like Red, and there's a lot of fish. So I've seen them on my side imaging. I know they're there, but now I want to find the ones that are really active in the depth that they are, and I want to be able to cast away from the boat. If I'm on a lake like Cass, I don't want to go over the fish because the lakes have gotten so much clearer. So because of the lakes clearing up on because of zebra mussels on a lot of lakes and some of them other things, I seem to cast way more than I do just troll behind the boat. Though I've seen it work on plenty of lakes, and you can still do it.
Absolutely, I agree with Carl. And the real trick is to cover ground with your cast that your boat hasn't been. And the Minn Kota motors now have a drift mode where you can set a drift mode any direction. Basically, the motor will follow. So you're actually drifting.
Mm-hmm.
And when people are crowded on big schools of fish, because people can find them now, and boats like to fish by boats. So I like to you go along big spans that have less fish that no one's fishing, and that's how you put them in the boat because they're more aggressive. And by the end of the day, you catch more fish, even if they're singles or triples along a long drift, than there are in a school of fish that have been chased really hard. Chasing fish scares them. And then there's one quick question about Bluetoothing the iPilot motor. I have an Ultrex, and definitely call Humminbird. But they have updates. Make sure you're updated on everything. They got an update that just came out yesterday, so update everything. It's right at Humminbird. You got to format your chip to FAT32. That's how you format it. Then you do the download. So definitely good luck. If you have any questions, don't call me. Call Humminbird because they're trained on this. I'm a fisherman, but definitely format a chip that's under 16 gigs, and then upload and upgrade it in order of how they are. So, and definitely call Humminbird if you have any questions.
All
We
right.
got more questions.
There's a good question coming in about what kind of rod you guys like to use for springtime shiner fishing.
Oh, that's got one sitting right here. I
Yep.
like a Legend Elite is one of my favorite rods. It still has a cork, but I'm falling in love with this physics, and these are all St. Croix. This physics is really cool. It has a really unique triangular shaped handle, which it has a little grip to it, and that's actually designed for the human form. So they really study this. Plus, it has a little hook at the back here, so when you're casting, you can really whip it. And I've got the fish monkeys with PVC grip, but this also helps have your finger on there. Really neat rods, and Trigon handles, and all the high end uh, uh, different components in the rod, the eyes down to everything. There's so many things, I won't get into it.
What action was that, bro?
That's a medium extra fast. I'll
Okay.
do light if we do leeches and crawlers because you got to let them kind of hang on it a little bit. But for minnows, I like to be able to pop
Yep.
them. But I set the hook by reeling until the rod goes down. Then I set the hook. So
Yep.
the real thing is you're setting the hook with your reel and then following it up with the second action of hitting it.
I feel like finding a rod that has a nice light tip that you can watch that shiner load up, watch that bite a little bit and the fish isn't feeling it. But then, like you said, the backbone where you can still punch that hook through is key.
Yeah. So here, Carl, could you explain to people what a chip update does on when they're updating their hummingbirds or any electronics?
Well, a lot of times electronics will add, a little fast something that'll make the thing process things a little bit faster, move a little faster, and every time they add one of those features onto any of the depth finders, and they're constantly trying to make things a little bit better. So if there's a lot of times it'll be a lag time, or if they're not talking correctly with with the new forward-facing sonar stuff, the Mega Live 2, maybe you might have it say, we can get a little better reading than what we were getting before by doing an update. So they're going to constantly do upgrades. That's what all the electronics are doing that. So if you can stay updated on your electronics, that can make a difference.
And you could do that right there where you're at if you're not slammed, obviously. But I know you have people there that are really savvy with tech, and
We do. Yep.
and they could update you right there. But then also make sure you stay updated, because they're giving you extra features that didn't exist before. It's pretty cool. I love that. So really cool stuff. And wow, we're getting a lot of questions.
Yeah, they're really flowing through here.
The attracted. What is the attraction again? I'll say it one more time. I'm using Pro, Cure, and Squid, and I'll go to Krill towards summertime, or Shiner based stuff. And I love Dr. Juice. I like what's that stuff that you smear on in the little jars? It's a little yellow
Billy Rub.
Billy rub.
Billy rub, yeah.
It's all good. I'm not a garlic and that kind of stuff person. I don't even like to smell that stuff, but it works. I was over at Dan's one time. He showed me this garlic stuff you could smell from across the room, and if you're brave enough, do it. But always do one plastic at a time.
Yep.
And so let's get some of this, Carl. On your side imaging transducer in the front or back of the boat. It's in the back of the boat, but how do you determine when to spot lock for a cast?
So generally, once I've located those fish, I'm going to go back through them, and I don't generally spot lock until I start catching fish. Now, there are some really good spots that I might know, what, I've always catch fish right here. I'm going to spot lock and make more than a couple casts, but usually I'm going through, and I'd let the fish tell me if I start catching fish in a spot, I'm going to spot lock and continue to do it. Hopefully I'm not spooking the fish, and sometimes it might be spot lock to catch 3. And then, the school moved a little ways away. Maybe I can see them on the Mega Live. But if you don't have that, you can see that there's still fish that are you can catch fish. If you're not catching fish, even if there's fish there, they're not as hungry as the next batch. So you just move a little bit, catch one, spot lock again, and see if you can catch all of the hungry ones there.
I like that answer. So both you guys, tell me, do you use braid on your panfish rigs?
Yes, sometimes yes, sometimes no. I like it. I think it depends a lot what kind of rod you're using it on with panfish. I think some forgiveness with panfish is key. So if you have it on a stiffer, faster action rod, I like to just run a mono then. But if you have a rod, an ultralight or something with some bow in it, I'm definitely running the braid there. So get a good hook set and let the braid do the forgiveness work.
And then someone had a question here real quick. Was that update for Explorer Helix? You could update all of them, and you go to that specific model online, and then it'll tell you what the updates are. Look at what your software is. There's a number. Take a picture, write it down, and it'll show you what they're at now. But you got to go in order. And if you don't know, have someone else do it. But then, so Carl, do you use braid at all, or is it all mono for you for panfish?
I am still pretty old school and use mono most of the time. I have specific lures, and most of my panfish lures I still like mono. But on a lot of my lures for walleyes, I am running braid, but I use mono more than most. I've been using it for a long time and continue to use it more than most.
Great answer. And I love braid, but if I'm vertically fishing, or sometimes pitching a bobber, I like to use mainly braid, or I'll use fluorocarbon. But I'm a braid to fluorocarbon, and Sunline makes an 8-pound braid, which is like, it's like a 1 pound diameter or even less. It's really thin, which is nice for cutting the wind. But there's a new one coming out, Almite, which is a sinking braid, and I'm definitely going to try that here. It's and you can get it in pink so you can really see it. But a sinking braid for panfish in 11 pound. Can't wait to use that and then go lighter. But the
What kind
question
of
is,
knots do you guys use for braid to fluoro leaders?
what do you go with? Well, I do the back to back. The Alberto's a little bit past what I can see in back to back uni, and then I tie a loop knot right at the jig.
And that's the same that I do.
Yep. Same
It's
here.
like it gets it to
I
move
think
like a swing.
I've messed around with FGs a little bit.
Of course you would.
And FGs are great to tie when your boat's sitting in your garage.
Yeah.
But then when you need to retie a leader and it's bouncing in the waves, a double uni works great. So I went back to just double unis. It never fails you. So the FG is cool. It's a little thinner, rolls through the guide tips, but double uni is pretty foolproof.
These little tiny pan candies are absolutely amazing, and I love all the different shapes. And one of the ones I'm super excited about is this one, Sam, and that looks like a crayfish, but it's very
That was
similar.
my favorite one. Yeah, that was mine. I had to push hard to get that design through. But
Well, this on a
they let it
little
through.
short shank jig head is going to be great for perch. All the
Yep.
perch come up every month for about a week. From wherever it is they are, and they just load up on the shelves in all of our lakes. We're in perch country here, jumbo perch country, and that is going to be killed. There's no reason to have minnows, except make sure to pick up some minnows when you're at Carl's place, because you never know, and it's a confidence builder to have them on board. But let's talk about the giveaways real quick.
Oh, yeah.
I'll start it out, and then Sam, you've got to tell the rest. We're giving away an Amped Outdoors battery tonight, believe it or not. And this is a big prize, 12 volt, 60 amp hour. And how many people could use that for your big screen when you're chasing fish around? What a great prize. Thanks for Matt from Amped for donating that to the show. And then Sam, what else are we giving away?
What else do we get? We got a sticker pack. So some of my stickers. Comment your favorite species, like and share the show. That'll get entered in to win that. I'm going to send out one of each of those to one of you.
Fantastic.
We also have the One Boat Network giveaway. So we're giving away a 1-year subscription to that One Boat Network. It's going to give you all the Lake Master maps, along with some additional connectivity to your boat if you have some One Boat Network products in there, hat, rod, sock. So comment One Boat Network, like and share. That'll get you entered in to win that. And then finally,
we have Northland is giving away a big prize pack, everything you need. And thanks, Jace, for putting this together. We got tungsten jigs, we got rock runner bottom bouncers, we got spinners, we got bobbers, everything, and a really stylish hat. And I want to thank the Peterson clan for putting this together. Great. Holy cow. Okay, you guys, because I have been there, how's the bite on red? Now, Sam, we got yours. Now, what do you think, Carl? What's your prediction, or what do you know?
Well, red's been really good, and it doesn't last every day. You can definitely hit some slow times, but the days I've been up there, the bite has been excellent, and the weather has been excellent on those couple of days too. That's my gut feeling through this next week. If we don't have the wind blow, fishing is going to be unbelievable. There's a ton of fish in there, a lot of real small fish too. So sometimes you get on fish where most of them are over 17. Other times you get on fish where there's a lot of, I mean, we had one time we pulled up to a spot and I said, oh, there's some fish here. And, you weren't used to seeing the size, and it was almost all straight 15 inches or less. And some of them were, sometimes you get on fish that are 12, 13 inches. There's a lot of fish in the lake, and it's going to be a good bite all summer, especially this early part of season. So,
well, we're getting hammered with questions here, so I'm going to throw this to you, Carl. What's the best way to keep crawlers fresh?
You got to keep them cold. So I'll make sure they're in a cooler, or they make a lot of really good coolers now. So if you can keep them in a little cooler and then have some kind of ice pack in there, whether it's in a Ziploc so they're not freezing them or anything, but somehow to keep those crawlers cool, they'll stay nice and firm and be able to catch lots of fish with them.
So we're getting a question here, and I don't know if any of us know. Has anybody been on Winnie yet? I haven't been on Winnie. I've been everywhere but I was on a lake that leads to Winnie, if that counts. Do you know what's going on there, Carl or Sam?
I'm trying to think. I heard
I live 10 minutes
one
from there.
report this weekend, and it sounded like it was okay. They got their fish. They weren't jumping in the boat, but it wasn't a total grind fest. Gosh, I'm trying to think who that was and what else they said, but I've heard it's been okay. So,
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of people that have been there, and it's been not as consistent where everybody seems to be catching them, but there are some guys that are doing really well. Some guys that I was amazed. I'm like, oh, you did that well, and the last few groups said they didn't. And so I've heard different depths too. There's been some deeper fish and a lot of shallow fish. So it's still that early part of season. I think people figure things out a little bit more. You know, we haven't had a full 7 days to fish yet. Um, so I think, and we had a lot of wind days where you couldn't move around. So things are only going to get better on especially on lakes like Winnie and Leech and Cass. I think things are just going to get better the next couple weeks.
That's a fantastic, and they had a MTT tournament out there. I seen a lot of boats, and I think that was that Saturday or Sunday or well, anyway, I seen one of the top weights was in the middle 30s, and I don't know if that's 5 or 6 fish. It's still a lot of weight no matter what, and quite a few anglers out there fishing for a tournament. It wasn't really good conditions, and it was super busy. You know, so it's probably good. I was at Cass, where it was a little bit slower. The bite was slow, so it was a little bit slow, and there wasn't hardly anybody around. But the Winnie was busy. All the axes that I looked at were busy. So people are catching fish, but I think the real big bang is coming up the next weekend. Super excited for all these lakes. And from what I'm hearing from Brian Martinka and Dan Fuller, the Leech Lake is pretty much full of fish. They're cranky now, but when they bite, that lake has a lot of big ones in it.
kind of fun question that came through. Someone wants to know what is your favorite walleye bait of all time?
Oh boy, for Carl or for us?
Go both of you. Carl, you start. Bro, you finish.
Yep,
Well,
sounds good.
It's hard to just go against the jig, and I put different things on it at different times of the year. It's a fathead if I'm on black duck, a shiner on most of the other lakes around, and once it gets a little later in the year, it's a crawler. And if I had to pick one color, it's probably the Moonlight Northland jig. You know, that blue and white has just always been really good to me.
I agree, and I really love the Northland tungsten jigs, but I cannot not use these.
You love the spins.
I love the Smeltnator is awesome. We lose one or two to pike in my boat, we go to this one because these are premium with a Gamakatsu hook. This slices through their nose like butter. But just because it's a spinner doesn't mean it has a spin. Just the movement of these things are just fantastic. And over the course of the year of time here, whether I'm on Rainy River, Lake Winnebagosh, Leech Lake, or Cass Lake, this is the best thing you could possibly have with a chunk of crawler. And I don't see people throwing them, but so I'm kind of spilling the beans here. One of my favorite lures, and I use them in all different colors, but I really love the walleye color, and the black is really good, and all the stuff. Sunrise, that's my absolute favorite now, and I've used them less time than I have a traditional jig, like the short shank here. But on a bobber, I'm gonna be using them on a bobber, and so there it is right there. So as far as fluorocarbon, someone asked why not fluorocarbon. I think we all use fluorocarbon, but mainly as leader material. Fluorocarbon tends to have a lot of memory to it. So if you spool a reel, great in the wintertime. Where I think of it as fluorocarbon has a faster sink rate. So in the wintertime, you're fishing straight down. When you're out casting, you don't want your line dragging through zebra mussels. You want to kind of be lofting. So that's why most people use monofilament.
Too stiff for a spinning. You can use, I use it on bass bait casters all the time, but that's not putting line twist in it. I think if you put it on a spinning reel, it would just want to explode off it. I guess I've never even tried it, but I don't imagine it would go super pretty. So
Sam, how come not a catfish sticker? Someone
I saw that. I saw maybe I'm trying to get some more species here to come. I don't know how high channel cat's on that list, but I might have to move it up after that comment.
Well, I talked to Carl, but Carl, don't you think he should have a bluegill?
You could have a bluegill on there too.
Bluegill.
I saw the crappie. That's still impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Oh man, they're really coming through. Paper or dirt for crawlers. And Carl, you have stuff right there they could buy,
There's
ready
a
to
lot
go.
of beddings that look a little more like paper, are made out of that kind of stuff, and they're a lot cleaner. So it's way nicer to not have that dirt getting all over on you when you're grabbing the crawlers out of the bedding. So it's a little nicer to have that bedding.
I agree with that, and I just want to remind people that at the St. Croix factory store they have a customer appreciation day on June 21st. I'm going to be there, but you know who else will be there? There's Al Linder, which is really cool, and they have great deals on rods. They have a lot of stuff going on there right at the factory, so you come check it out. It's a fun thing, and I take a break from my guiding to go there, and so stop down. Customer appreciation day at St. Croix factory store where everything's made and they make rods from scratch, like from they just make them out of nothing, and they got these beautiful rods. 32 people it takes to make them, but just want to remind everybody, and that is June 21st, customer appreciation day at St. Croix Rods. So uh so about screen size, Carl, do you like two models side by side, or do you want one big one? Someone wants to know they want the best bang for their buck. Would you go with two of them, or two side by side, or one big one on the Humminbirds?
I personally generally think you're always safer having two screens. Once you separate them and you're watching one on GPS and one on sonar, or one on side imaging and one on GPS, or it's just, I think it's easier to have two screens. The bigger they are, the better. But you also have that ability to, if you would ever have one go down, it's really rare with any of the electronics but you don't want to be on a fishing trip and all of a sudden have one go down. And then if it was your only one, so whatever, I usually like to put two side by side and then be able to have, pick however big a one you can. If you can afford two 10-inchers, that's good. If you can afford two 12-inchers, that's good. If you have to go down to two sevens, that isn't that the end of the world. You can still see things pretty well with a 7-inch screen.
That's
I think
absolutely true.
that's buy the one you can afford. I mean, I started with 1.7, and then I got 2.7s, and I still run those 2.7s next to 2.10s in my boat now. But like Carl said, electronics, you can spend $500 or you can spend $10,000 these days. And the more you spend, the better features and better things you're going to see. But you can still the $500 range is really, really good nowadays. So buy the best you can afford.
That's a crazy question there. Are Minnesota lakes cleaner than an average Wisconsin lake? No, they're not cleaner. They're just different. I mean, every lake's different. I would say
There's some
in this
really
area,
clean lakes in northern Wisconsin.
they're just pristine. And as far as all the lakes go, there's not every lake has a different level. There are pristine lakes in the area that the DNR or the forestry and DNR declare as pristine lakes, but they have to earn that by less use. And zebra mussels make them clear. But I remember when Winnie was really, you couldn't even see 6 feet, and we used to catch walleyes underneath a spinning prop in 9 feet of water. Now you can see, on a clear, calm day, 20 feet down. Same with cass and leech. The humps glow in the distance where the rock piles are. As you're driving up, you can see a glowing thing up there, and you never used to see them. So all lakes are the same in all the states. Less fertility or less. It depends. With algae, we got a lot of algae this year that didn't die because we had lack of snow. That's going to probably muddle it up, but it'll help us. And how's black duck for algae this year, Carl?
The lake's pretty dirty right away to start the year off, and I don't know. Sometimes that's just the way the ice goes off, but that's part of why those fish are extra shallow right away. The lake isn't very clear right off the bat.
And I don't have any information on Otter Tail Lake area. I don't think any of us do, but go to Angling Buzz Bite. They have information from there. They feature guides from all over Minnesota. So for information on Otter Tail, go to the Angling Buzz Bite. You'll find out more stuff about that. And then someone wanted to know about crawlers. Sam, Carl, do you use?
Go to Carl.
Crawler's still my very favorite bait. You can use it any time, and there's lots of they're readily available all over, and all species eat them. So
I feel like crawlers have really taken over the walleye world, especially a jig. I shouldn't say crawlers in general. A jig and a crawler. It seems like everyone has a jig and a crawler from June until dang near November now. That seems to be the bait to be.
They use them in tournaments, in the walleye tournaments. It sure seems like crawlers are getting a lot of fish for people in all different sizes. And I mean, all of us do tournaments. You do them, Sam, Carl, you do them, and I've done a lot more in the past, but I still do a few. And they're a player in the tournaments, aren't they, Carl?
Do you guys like half or whole crawlers?
I like to go with a half a crawler, honestly, and a half a crawler works really good. And even on one of these deep V spinner heads here, if you put a chunk of crawler on there, that works great casting. But we fish and I guide on lakes that are full of big jumbo perch, and if we're trying to get to walleyes, those things will just annihilate your bait. So I'll use them just small pieces, and the walleyes don't know how big a crawler is. If there's a little bit on there, they'll take it. But someone asked, "Will we use them under a bobber?" Absolutely. I'm not the only one that uses them under bobber. In Hayward, John Myrie, he's always been using them under a bobber. So it's not about spin; it's about flash. That flash brings them in, so it's a pretty cool thing. I think we might have temper. Oh, here he is. There you are.
Yeah, I was missing for a second.
Well, so the classic lure, the Northland gumdrop floater. You ever use that, Carl, for summer eyes?
Well, for a long time, that was probably one of my very favorite lures. For a long time, I did a lot more Lindy rigging than I did jigging. It's kind of changed now. And you could put a gumdrop floater and a leech, or a gumdrop floater and a crawler, and it caught fish all the time. Still does, still catches fish. The guys that like to use them still catch lots of fish with them. But I use it a lot less than I used to.
So both of you guys, when do you go to crawlers? What water temperature? Is there a water temperature, or do you just always bring them? Go ahead, Sam.
It's something that I need to experiment more with. I feel like June is kind of that magic number, but also June for me turns into bass season, so I'm going more bass over there. But like I said, it seems like guys are throwing jig and crawlers all the time now, more than I've ever remembered in the past. So maybe Carl can enlighten us more on that.
And I always have brought them with. So I have caught lots and lots of walleyes. Many opening days were saved when I started fishing with a crawler. It seemed like they wanted that. They preferred that over. And I've also had late October trips when you think it's all jig and a minnow, where all of a sudden I'm like, why aren't these fish biting? And all of a sudden I can start catching them with a crawler. I do think that the summertime is when most people like them. It's harder to get good minnows, harder to keep minnows alive. And that's when most people are using crawlers. But they are something that's in my box from opening day until the last day I fish on the lake. I haven't used them as often during the ice, but I have got fish on them during the winter too. And it might be one of those things that we're going to see more often coming up.
I agree with you. And there is no temperature for crawlers. And so just bring them when you can. And if you're on a lake full of perch, you're going to catch perch. I mean, the big perch will eat them. And there's no way to get away from other than putting a crawler on a long shank jig and the plastic on the backside. So then they can't get it. It's like a scarf on your jig. The crawler chunk is in front, right by the jig head, and then the plastic's behind it. But we're getting some other questions here too. Will walleyes and panfish move back out during your front? I think we would all agree that there's gonna be a reset where they start moving back out, and then the updates for the Humminbird help everything. The just every little function they could think of that update, they'll add that as they go. So it's really cool. You get extra bonuses, and their GPS is pretty rock solid. So we don't really need any of that stuff. It's always fine tuning micro things and working things together and keeping any little type of glitch, because everybody has their favorite way of doing stuff, and they're slowly figuring out how to make everything happen. It's pretty cool. But what depths are you finding your weeds at right now? So fire away, Carl.
Well, the weeds they're not very tall yet, but I am starting to see them grow up in the same places that they usually do. So that varies from lake to lake. So depending, what lake you're on, but the lake I was chasing some crappies in the other day, I saw they had already moved up into some in some staging, outside of where they were going to spawn. They were just staging outside there, and there was some smaller coontail that was starting to grow up, and they were hanging right above it because that stuff wasn't very tall. But you could see that stuff starting to grow on all of my electronics. We'd be able to see that, and they were hanging out wherever that was. And on that lake, it was in about 8 to 10 feet of water, and the fish were just staged right there.
It's happening, and it seems like the fish were kind of scattered a little bit during the heat because they were in the middle of spawn. But then now we're starting to hear in the last couple of days that some are really shallow, like right away, how would they would be right after the spawn. So they're still holding there, and it's the reset button. So either of you, and this is a trick question, but do you ever use plastic worms? I think we all do. And I don't have with me, it's in the boat, but I like the eye candy plastic worm because when you put it on a jig head, if you got a stand up jig head, it stops, it floats. So when I'm on rock piles, the fish can grab it. Sometimes they can't get your bait if it's down between rocks, they'll suck at it or whatever, but the tail floats up. I think that's a game changer when using a jig worm for walleyes. What do you think, Carl?
It has made a big difference, and plastics, people have been using them forever, and there's been plastic worms and plastic of all kinds. But every year they get a little bit better. The new eye candy stuff has been better than the stuff before it, and the stuff before that was really good too. So plastics are getting better and better. We're learning how to use them more and more in the walleye world, and there's a lot of times now where we're like, you know what, I'd rather use the plastic. Not only does it not come off as fast, you don't have to worry about keeping it alive, but a lot of times you can catch a lot of fish without having live bait.
And then the bass, the one bass guy between us here, Sam,
Yeah,
you have more worms in your boat.
I got a lot of plastic worms, but I love plastics for walleyes too. There's something about a fish just picking up a jig and a minnow, but that nice dainty feel. But when they hit a plastic, it's like boom, so it's a different bite. So I always have them in the boat, just like all these other bait conversations we've had, that sometimes the fish really surprise you and you think it's going to be a day where spot tails or minnows or even crawlers are shining, and you're running through all those. It's not working throughout the plastics, and bam, it works. So, with bass fishing, I always have like 10 rods tied up on deck. They always want something different. And I think walleye anglers got to think the same way, that you can't just throw around in a jig in the middle all day, every day. So yeah, I love implementing plastics. And we're, from the time I started at Northland to now, I think we've gone away from the fact of, oh, they won't eat plastics here. Walleyes eat plastics everywhere. If you haven't tried it, you got to try it. It's a really fun bite.
And here's a quick one here. We're getting late in the program already. I don't know where the time went, but now, do anybody try? Who tries drop shots here? I'm definitely a drop shot guy. I think all of us do. Do you ever use a floating jig head on that, a floater?
I like straight tying hooks into it. I've looked at some of that stuff in pools, and we've messed with some stuff at Northland. And sometimes even with the eye candy, if you get too much float on your drop shot, it floats up parallel with the line. So you almost want just rely on that line tension and keep some forward movement, and that keeps your bait horizontal. That's my thought on it. What do you guys think?
Well, have you used a floater on yours, Carl?
I haven't used a floater as often. I tried. I've used them quite a bit, but I haven't used a floater on them yet.
Well, and I've used it. The jumbo perch just absolutely harangue it, and it works great. If you're fishing jumbo perch, you're going to have one nonstop, set it about 2 feet off the bottom. Walleyes will eat it too. But I got in lakes that are just full of big jumbo perch, and I try to get away from them all the time. But there's times when there's a pot of walleyes with no little fish, throw it over there. They're going to eat it. Of course they will. And so someone was asking about leeches, water temperature. I remember fishing it might have been an FLW down on the river, and Carl, you were in that one, and we all wanted leeches when we were down there, and the water was in the 40s.
Yeah, I said I've seen leeches work when it's really cold. I've seen all kinds of bait. You always have to bring it all with, and then see which one's going to work the best.
I agree on that, and then we'll give this one to Sam. Well, actually, before we answer this last question here, Sam, that we're going to put on you, I want to announce what we're giving away tonight. So we're giving away an Amped Outdoors battery. See, I got the Amped here, and
which is huge.
This is huge. This is a 12-volt, 60 amp hour battery.
Or I should preface, it's a huge giveaway. It's a small battery. It's a huge giveaway with huge power.
Giveaway. Yeah, look up what that costs. And I want to thank Matt from Amped Outdoors for doing that. So one person's going to be getting that battery tonight off our show. And then we have Northland Fishing Tackle Prize Pack here, Survival Kit. And it has everything you need to catch walleyes in northern Minnesota, tungsten, spinners, bobbers, and everything we need, plus a stylish hat. And I want to thank the Peterson clan for putting this together. And then, Sam, that's not it.
We got some stickers. Let's see. There's the crappie one Carl was talking about. So going to give away some stickers. So pick that out. And then finally, we have the One Boat Network giveaway. So 1 year subscription to One Boat Network, Humminbird hat, and a nice rod sock. So,
okay. Now here's the question that was asked. Do you throw a Ned rig this time of year? I'm going to let Sam talk. I know Carl and I do it, but
yeah, Ned rigs are a catch everything bait. I fell in love with them bass fishing, but I figured out they can be super, super effective for walleyes this time of year too. And I think it kind of bridges that gap between the live bait needs something twitching in their face and the reaction bait plastics. But just throwing out a Ned rig and dragging it on the bottom, walleyes, bass, bluegills, crappies, everything loves a Ned. So yeah, you got to have the Ned.
Well, and I got to say something now, Carl. You've caught them on Ned style baits, and we could talk about Neds for an hour. So we got to be careful. We got to give stuff away here. But Carl, tell people you've caught walleyes on stuff like that.
Yeah. A Ned rig is almost. I mean, it's basically the same as my jig and a crawler, because I put a short crawler on them a lot of times, and then that Ned head jig head is probably one of the. There's a reason everybody's using them now, and more people are using them. It is the hot new thing, and it's not that new, but it's definitely catching a lot of fish.
And I won't get too far into it, but Ned Kitey, who wrote stuff for In Fisherman and everything, he's interviewed me for stuff. He saved all the heads when he was using jig worms of the worm. Saved them all when he ran out of the jig worm side. He used the heads and started off fishing everybody. So good old Ned came up with it. A lot of people probably don't know where it came from, but a legendary man with such a simple idea. It's at the bass tournament up in I Falls. You see him tied on everybody's boats. You got this gigantic boat with all the stuff in it, and they got a Ned rig. It just looks like something's missing, but everything's like that. But so before we do the giveaways, you got to listen here. I want to thank Chesterburg Toyota for sponsoring the on-air show here, and Chesterburg's place where you get a new Toyota, a used car, or get your vehicle serviced. Great place. And congratulations to Brian, who is the guy at Chesterburg Toyota, him and his gang. He and Dan Fuller took second place in the AIM tournament today on Leech Lake. So stop in, talk about the tournament, buy a car. And Timberline Sports in Black Duck, Carl right here is with me. There he is. And he's got a place you can go on the way to Red. Even if you're near Bemidji, wherever you're at, go to Timberline Sports in Black Duck. You can get everything. You get bait, sage advice. You could buy a gun. You could get a pizza. You could buy a deer stand. You can get gas. You can get everything you need with one stop. And Carl will be there. He works nonstop. So I want to thank Carl for coming on the show. And for now, let's do the giveaway. So Sam, why don't you announce all the giveaways?
Got the winner. So the Northland prize pack is going to be Larry Nixon. So
congratulations, Larry. Make sure you text us your emails or
Yep.
your addresses.
And Brooke will send me over your guys' links. Most of you come through Facebook, so I'll try to reach out too. So look for that. I know last week we're still waiting on one winner to check their inbox for my message. One Boat Network is going to be Steve Witto. The stickers are going to be Joel Deemer, and the big grand prize Amped Outdoors battery is going to be Jeff Ginter. So congratulations, everyone.
Congratulations, everybody. Wow, what a winning thing there. That was awesome. And if you didn't win, you can go to Timberline Sports in Black Duck here and you can buy this stuff. So, but thanks for supporting our on-air podcast. I want to thank Sam for being my co-host, Brooke, the producer, my creative marketing lady, Heather. She's
Hi, Mom and Steve and Joey.
Yep, and all those people too. But I want to thank everybody for being a part of the Bro Roadshow. And we'll see you again in the fall. But for now, I got to go guiding. We're going to talk about ice in the fall. So definitely tune in and watch.
Whip.
Yep, I gotta get back to work here. Thanks for coming on, Carl. And good luck, everybody. Good luck fishing. We'll talk to you later.